Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on what side of the globe you're on. Let's start off with SPY. I would be looking more of a pullback into the 21 EMA in the morning. Watch for a bounce, and we are going for a continuation play based off of the news with China deal. And if we were to get a pullback, I'd be looking more into this 570.03 bounce range, pushing into this 573.69, 576.41. But more than likely, that would possibly happen is that we end up continuing on the overnight and in pre-market, pushing above 573.69. But the next levels you would be watching is 576. After that, let's actually break this down because I don't have anything marked. So we do got small level here, 581.25. And then one right here, a level resistance at 594.39. Tomorrow's probably going to be a really big day, so we could possibly, more than likely, we could possibly end up seeing 581.25 towards the end of the day, depending if news holds up and buying pressure holds up based off the news, being that this is a really good rate thing that we could actually get. We ended up breaking out of the trend, or at least the flag that we were in, so that's a good thing. Now let's try IWM. Okay, so for IWM, we do have small window of leniency. We could come down and test this trend line support, possibly even 203.33, which is the top of the supply zone. If anything, we could always go for a gap fill on SPY IWM. For IWM, it would be this 202.28. Gap fill for SPY would be down to this 567 range. The 567.63, it would just be the top of the day, even down to 566.12, but I don't see that happening at all, at least not this week. But for IWM, I do want to see a bounce at 203.33. If not, it would be a possible bounce or a take on uptrend, depending on how strong momentum is in the pre-market. Bull is one of the individuals I would be looking at today. I was watching for a demand bounce, given that we did come close to it, large and bull, a little bear, bullish hammer candle, on a saw a strong downtrend, showing chances of a reversal in the mix. Best thing that we could probably see is this 1643 acting as a little bit of resistance, unless we were to break above it. One thing I would be watching for in this scenario is a reject of 1643. Watch for a slight pullback and then a break above 1643, targeting this 1826 range on Weeble. This is bull. For Intel, I was really watching for a 2255 break, which we did end up happening based off of the Trump news, the Trump China news. So with that being said, I would be interested into a small pullback as anything, but target is bullish. So if trend is bullish in the pre-market going into the opening bell, I would be interested into going longs for the upside on Intel, targeting this 2274 range, 2330 supply. Obviously, when we get into the supply range, we'd be targeting the 2274 for a pullback to be able to press above supply again. For Robinhood, same scenario as Intel, just breaking out of a resistance zone. We had that solid break today based off of news as always. I'd be watching for a 21 EMA on the hourly chart bounce. Depending on how we respect the hourly 21 it would be indication for going for longs. As long as volume and price action is showing for reversal and trend, we're accepting the reversal and trend. You know, we did end up breaking out of this small little flag that we were in. Didn't really form much, but it did break out. For another idea for opening up going longs would be this top end of Friday, would be this 56.32. Watching for a bounce from there, continuation to the upside. Not initial range to price in. I mean, even if I can take this flag, your initial range to price in would be like $60.13 down to that 72.6 Fibonacci retracement on the daily trend. So $60.13 is your for a price target for tomorrow. On Hood, Walmart, this would be indication of a reversal in trend. Given that we did doji out, would create us another higher low. In this case, would be targeting the $100.34 up to this gap fill, which I didn't even mark the bottom of the gap fill. Out to this gap fill at $102.02. But this would entail that we maintain strong and bullish momentum. We do reminder that we do have earnings on 5/15, which should be this week as well. So what is this week's earnings? So it'd be Thursday for earnings on Walmart. I would be interested in calls overall for the earnings play. So buying it cheap, make sure it pulls back. For Amazon, it doesn't seem like it's going to let up, but if we do end up letting up, or another thing we could be watching for is a break above 206.38, or this pressing onto this 205.97 for a reject. I'm watching for a decent pullback. Then one thing you could possibly do is just doing a Fibonacci retracement from the bottom end right here to the top end right here. If we do end up pulling back and watching for a 50% or 62%, 61.8% Fibonacci retracement, and watch those bounce levels for a long entry or a rejection below the 72.6. For Nvidia, obviously we're going to be a little bit more bullish, given that it's the China tariff news, reduction in tariffs anyways. One price target we could be watching is 122.22. One level if we could be possibly watching for a bounce though is all the way down to 119.69, which is not very far, so it'd be the top end of the supply zone or resistance zone. Possible areas that we can watch for a reject would be this high right here at 102.83. Seems like it did give a little resistance during the overnight session between 120.36 and 120.83. Given a little issue in the overnight session, so I rejected from there, we started trending down. So that would be a general area that we could watch for a reject, or at least a pullback into this top of the supply zone before we push up above, targeting this 122.22. So this one's going to be pretty wide. We don't really have much of a level in between this zone. Not really much of it tested. A lot of it was untested and a lot of uncertainty. So what would we really wanting to see on Apple is if we can break above this 203.48, we'd be looking into testing this 212 range. So 212.47, 212.94. This would be into the supply zone right here. I'd be interested in watching a pullback from there before making another higher high and breaking above this 214.86, targeting 219.23, 221.21. I mean 221.02. I could possibly see that 214.86 to 219.23 as a viable range by Friday. Thursday, we do have a lot of news coming in on Thursday, so that would be another thing that could move the markets, especially on Thursday. Tuesday, we do have a little bit of news, but it's not very much that wouldn't make the markets, crash or rally by any means necessary. AMD, I was watching for a pullback of, a breakout of 103.39, which would be this resistance zone if we were to get a close above that. One thing now that we can see that we are strong on the uptrend as everything else is in the market. one thing we could watch for is a 21 EMA bounce on the pre-market, either pre-market or in the intraday. And then watch targeting this 107.62 up to this, fuck you, 108.68 range for tomorrow. More than likely we could see the highs being above 108.68. After that, we do got a resistance at 114.86 and a small supply just underneath that. Or at least resistance area. No, that wouldn't even count, to be honest. This is on a downtrend. It's just that resistance at 114.85. We can top mark this 114.23. Just the beginning of that resistance zone. That's a strong support zone. Okay. SoFi is another thing I wanted to watch. I noticed that they were on a bull flag during the daily. Or I mean, not the bull flag, but strong cup and handle on the daily. Mother fucking dinosaurs. Before I move anything else. Okay. But I noticed that they were in a weird cup and handle trend, especially on the daily, but then we now started seeing a formation of the 4-hour chart that we do have another solid cup and handle on the moving upwards. Right here. So the next thing we could possibly target for this move to confirm would be this top end right here. So this 1451. If we can break above that 1451 range, we can start chasing into this 1482 to 1577 range. Obviously, this would possibly take more than 3 days just to even get to 1451. It could also just happen tomorrow, based on just news, or not news, but chatter over the grapevine on tariffs. So I don't think I went over QQQ. So QQQ targets would be this 502 range. Obviously, watch for a 21 EMA bounce on the 1-hour chart. And then the next range we could see is that we do have a small support zone. Yeah, I'm just going to call it out. A small support zone at 506.71 to 504.49. Let's see if I can trail this back far enough. Get a screenshot if need be. We'd be watching this 502 price target into this 504.27, 506.48 range, pushing into this 514, 515 range. Given that this is QQQ, this 515 is viable for possibly going into Tuesday in the late afternoon. For tomorrow, I would want to see a pullback overall into this 21 EMA or even the top of the supply zone at on 493.63. If we were to project for a pump and dump, or a dump and pump anyways in this scenario, because based off of news, the 21 EMA is normally where I normally see a lot of bounces coming, just from experience, or even just testing the 5 and the 8 EMA on the 1-hour chart can show viable opportunity for an uptrend contract. Well, I hope I went through everything. You guys can slow the video down, but as a disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor. You will lose money. I do not recommend you day trading. you haven't not have the experience or are not taking the practice, I do recommend you taking the time to study up, reading some books, doing some paper trades, or even asking some questions on a Discord or a group that would help you out. Finding mentorship is another way. And I cannot be held liable for any profits or losses that you incur using my analysis, because I am not a financial advisor and I do not recommend you using my analysis. I am just here to educate and help you guys through what your daily trades are. You know, and I'm not good at videos either, but whatever's. Yeah, don't forget to hit that like, that subscribe, and I'll see you guys Sunday, Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Now, obviously today was a little later, but 8 p.m. Central Time. And if you guys join the Discord, the link is down below. Then you guys can enjoy in part with live trading and live one-on-one, normally every night at 8 p.m. till midnight Central Time. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day or evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.